Hello and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Wire podcast. I am your host, Lewis Carlin. Joining me today is a former WWE referee of 22 years. He is the co-host of Reffing It Up, Huge Pop Radio, and he's the author of The Three Count. Very happy to welcome to the show, Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Liz. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So let's get right to the beginning. How did it all begin for you? What led to you wanting to become a professional wrestling referee, to pursue a career as a professional wrestling referee?
That's the funny thing. I didn't enter this business hoping to become a referee. I didn't know what I just wanted to be a part of this business in some form or fashion.
Okay,
And I stumbled upon it actually. I used to go to Maple Leaf Gardens here in Toronto every 3 weeks. Like
okay,
clockwork, I had ringside tickets for every show, second row ringside right beside the entranceway. People who remember the old Maple Leaf Gardens had that ramp that was
okay, yeah,
level with
yeah.
the ring. It was one of the unique features of Maple Leaf Gardens at that time. And I would sit there and I'd take pictures. I'd come back to the next show, I'd sell them. And I got caught selling these pictures by someone who worked for Jack Tunney at the
Okay,
time. He used to take the pictures for the program, and he sort of said, "You can't do this, it's illegal." And I thought I was in big trouble. I was going to lose my
okay,
tickets and never be able, I'd be banished and
okay,
never get to come back again. But he said, "You know what, you don't seem like a bad guy. Just don't do it right out in front of the venue where everybody can see you. Just move down the little block a little bit." And I said, "All right, thank you, I appreciate it." We became
okay,
friends.
okay,
And he said, "You know what, maybe I'll talk to Jack about bringing you on as my assistant photographer and help me
okay.
take pictures ringside." And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be cool. I'd be inside the barrier and I'd be able to take pictures."
Wow.
So he introduced me to Jack, and Jack said, "Well, we don't need another photographer, so we'll find something for the kid to do."
Okay,
So, so I ran around doing all the odd jobs, whatever needed to be done. And after about a year or so, well, that was 1985. I'm dating myself right now. So in 86, like the later half of 1986, I'd become friends with Pat Patterson and a lot of the agents
oh
like
wow,
Jack
yeah,
Lanza and Tony Gurria, you know, and those Chief J Strongbow. And
oh
Pat comes
wow,
up,
yeah,
Pat says to Jack one day, I'm standing right there, and says, "Pat, Jack, we have the kid here. He's running all these errands for us, and he's just sitting around waiting for stuff to do. Why don't we use him during the show? Maybe we'll make him a referee." And Jack says, "But do we want to smarten the kid up?" And Pat says,
mm,
"Jack, he's in the locker room with the boys. He's kind of
okay,
hanging out, and they said, why not? We'll use him." So he told me to get the black sneakers, the black pants, the blue shirt at the time, and the black bow
okay.
tie, and carry it with me at all times. And that was the in, at least, anyways.
You're mentioning a lot of names that I grew up watching. You said you dated yourself,
Mm-hmm.
1985. I
Mm-hmm.
became a fan in 1978. Bruno Sammartino.
Ah,
I grew up in New York City. My grandfather, big Bruno fan.
mm-hmm.
But you mentioned Pat Patterson. It was because of Pat Patterson taking the Cobra Clutch Challenge in
Mm-hmm.
1980, I think two or three, that made
Yeah.
me an absolute devoted fan to professional wrestling.
Yeah, I don't
But
think Pat gets enough of flowers for his contributions and how good he was from a psychology standpoint. Not only in the ring but outside the ring, he was just a master. Like he'd take little suggestions and tweak them. Like some guys would say, "Okay, here's what we want to do," and Pat would say, "No, do it this way." And
mm,
guys would think, "Well, why would I do it that way?" And then after they do it, they go, "Ah, now I
there
get
you
it."
go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely one of the greatest of all time. So I was reading that your first match, 1985, SD Jones versus the Red Demon. Was that true? And if that is
Yeah.
true, what do you remember about that match?
Oh, I remember plenty because you always remember your first time, right? So it was here in Ontario, in Newmarket, Ontario. It was a house show, and I had my ref gear with me. I hadn't begun refereeing yet, so and I didn't think enough to ahead to start asking questions from the other veterans and saying, "Okay, Pat suggested I referee. What do I do? How do I do this?" I just carried it with me and did my duties on the ring crew and that sort of stuff, kind of walking through the day and just waiting for stuff to do as normal. And Chief J Strongbow was the agent that night, the lead
Okay.
agent, and says to me, "Jimmy," well, actually, he called me Jimmy Jam. So he said, "Jimmy Jam, you got your ref gear with you?" And I said, "Yes, sir, Chief, I do." He says, "Well, put it on. You're refing tonight." And I was just like, okay. What am I supposed to say? No. He says, "You're going to referee the match with SD Jones and the Red Demon, who was Jose Luis Rivera."
Yeah, yeah,
under
yeah.
the hood. He says, get with them, they'll tell you what to do. And I said, okay, great. So I was really good friends with SD, and I said, SD, I got some good news and some bad news. And he says, well, what's the good news? I said, I'm reffing your match tonight. He says, what's the bad news? I said, I'm reffing your match tonight. I have no clue what I'm doing. So he just said, don't worry about it. Stay close to me. I'll talk you through it. And he did. And that's afterwards, he took me aside and he says, you didn't do bad for a first time, but you know what? Get with the other refs, talk to them, pick their brains and listen to them and, get advice from them and just try to improve every time you're out there and ask for feedback and all that. He gave me all the great advice. You know what I mean? And that was the first time.
Now I'm a big SD fan. I grew up watching SD. Did he win the match? Did SD win that match?
Actually, he did.
He
Yes, he
did.
did.
Okay, good, good. Because he
Yeah.
didn't win too many matches from when I was watching. He'd always give up a good fight, but he'd always wind up losing at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But did you ever expect that from that first match, it was going to lead to a 22-year career in the WWE?
No, I didn't know what to expect, honestly. I was just grateful to be there. And then things just worked out. I was one of those people who, kept my mouth shut and did my job and asked questions when I needed questions to ask the right questions. And I was fortunate enough where, and I, not to put myself over, but the boys felt comfortable around me.
Okay.
They knew that I wasn't going to be one of these big-headed guys and going, "Oh, look, I'm on TV. Check it out, I'm on TV." I'm not,
Hmm.
that was never me. I learned early on from guys like David Hebner and Timmy White and Danny Davis and those guys that it's not about you. It's about the talent in the ring. You're there as a conduit to help them tell their story without being a part. You're invisible until you need to be visible. And that was ingrained into my brain from day one. And it stayed there. And to this day, when it's funny because when I get recognized by people, it kind of catches me off guard.
Okay.
And then, sometimes my wife has to tell me, but you were on TV for like 22 years. Of course, people are going to remember you. I said,
Of course.
I guess I'm like the soup Nazi.
Did it hurt when you were released in 2009, or was there any anger when they released you?
No anger. It was weird because of the circumstances surrounding it. I just prior to that, I had taken some time off because my father had gotten sick, and I needed to be home, to take care of some stuff. And he unfortunately passed away. And at that time, it was like a twofold thing. That hit me hard because my dad was my hero, And when I had the conversation with the talent relations, and they said, "Well, we're cutting back our force by like 10% or whatever the figure they said," he says, "We'll put you on hiatus for 90 days, and we'll revisit it then. But the door's going to always be open for you."
Okay.
And when my father passed away, it just clicked. Something clicked, and I said, "You know what? I was blessed to do this for so long, but at the same time, my family gave up so much for me to allow me to live my dream."
Mhm.
We talk about the sacrifices we make when we're on the road for 250, 300 days a year. The family at home that you leave behind also makes sacrifices because you're not there for birthdays. You're not there for anniversaries. You're
Yeah.
not there, for special occasions. And I said, uh, let me take some time away and rethink this thing. And while I took that time away, I said, you know what? I'm content. I'm happy. As much as
Yeah.
I miss the in-ring stuff. Let's put it that way. I miss the in-ring
Sure.
stuff. I
Sure.
miss my friends, but I don't miss the travel and I don't miss being away from home.
Well, in 2012, you were working for Ring of Honor, and you refereed a match. I forgot the event, but the crowd started chanting, "Thank you, Jimmy! Thank you, Jimmy!" That must have been gratifying. That must have been a great moment for you.
Yeah, that was here in Toronto. It was Border Wars here in
Okay.
Toronto. In 2012, I refereed a match with Lance Storm and Mike Bennett.
Okay.
And when I went to the ring, again, didn't expect it or anything like that. And then the chant broke out and I had to fight it back. I was like literally choking back the tears. I was so touched and so moved by it. And Lance afterwards, after the match, he went over. Of course, the Canadian guy in Canada has to go
Mhm.
over, but
Sure.
he came over to me and gave me a big hug and said, "Man, that was great. You deserved it." And again, then now the waterworks started. I couldn't hold it in.
Could we ever see you back in the ring refereeing on a part-time or full-time basis?
There's,
Has
under the
anybody
right,
actually, let me rephrase, has anybody reached out to you
there
to
have
ref?
been instances, but
Okay.
at the same time, I want it to be under the right circumstances. Like, for
Okay.
example, if it's a very good friend of mine, I will, you know, as a favor to them. And
Okay.
if it's in any other circumstance, again, it would have to be the right circumstance for the right reasons, not just to go in there and make a. I'm not in it to make a payday anymore.
Okay.
I would do it because I'd love to do it. So
Okay.
it's the wrestling business. Never say never. There's, have you got one more left in you? Yeah, I'll talk my knees into it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And our first match, 1985, 40 years ago. What do you think of the main differences wrestling in 1985 compared to wrestling in 2025?
Oh, there's, where do I begin?
Okay. Okay.
um,
Well, we got
uh,
40 minutes, so go ahead.
yeah.
I'm only kidding.
No, there are a lot of changes, like any other industry, whether it's hockey, because I'm a big hockey guy, hockey, football, basketball, everything evolves and changes. I think sometimes in today's wrestling, they try to reinvent stuff that has been historically working for years. Like, for example, the the um, the heel and babyface dynamic. I know a lot of people in today's wrestling world think, well, that's passe. It doesn't work anymore. People are more interested in just great matches as
Yeah.
opposed to having a great heel and a great babyface going at it. And I think recently we've been seeing instances where that's not true anymore. I mean, it's great watching these dream matches and having people go in there and you know have a banger, as they call it now. But at the same time, I watch matches where some would not consider it a quote unquote 5-star match, but the story that they're telling and the backstory as to why they're having this match and the psychology in the match gets me more invested in that 5-star banger, because I believe story and psychology still to this day makes money.
I agree.
Yeah, and I love the fact that back when I started, people complained about Hulk Hogan. Oh well, he only had 3 moves. But if you watch his stuff back in Japan, when he worked in Japan,
Oh, yeah.
he had a hell of a lot more than 3 moves.
Yeah.
He can go. But he realized when he came back, I don't need to beat up my body. I can get over, which is the main goal, get over, draw money, and make money doing my Hulkamania stuff. You know, put your hand to your ear,
Yeah. Yeah.
do the pose, leg drop, which did a number on his hip all those years, but still,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's the difference. And I think young guys today think the moves are where the money is. That's not where the money is. A long time ago, my old boss, and he used to say, right here is where you make your money. This is where you make your money, in your face. And that's what puts asses in seats
Mhm.
every 18 inches and puts them in front of their TV screen.
All right. So yeah, Hulk Hogan, great. I mean, you talk about Japan. I mean, he had some legendary matches against Antonio Inoki.
Mm-hmm.
He faced Dusty Rhodes in Japan.
Right.
I don't think that match ever happened in the States, but that was a great one. But yeah, Hulk Hogan, definitely one of the all-time greats. Could we talk about MJF? I know you had a little
Oh,
thing with
sure.
the okay. Yeah, about a month ago, you got into a social media war of words with MJF. So just right now, what's your opinion of MJF? Is that all water under the bridge, or
For me, it always has been. I didn't have
okay?
an issue with MJF. I just made a comment about the promo exchange he had with Dustin Rhodes, which I enjoyed. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
I like MJF. I think he's very, very talented for a guy his age. He still hasn't found his, he'll be in, give him 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
when it finally clicks into him that he doesn't have to appeal to the internet crowd and make these offhand comments directed towards them to get a pop and to pop himself. Once he realizes that this guy, like his in-ring stuff, don't worry about that. He knows what he's doing there. He just has to learn. He doesn't have to make those smarmy remarks. But the reason he came back at me was I made an offhanded comment because he alluded to Cody Rhodes,
Yeah, yeah,
who is the number one guy in the other company.
Hmm.
Right. And a lot of people came back and said, well, it makes sense because Dustin is his older brother. So he would reference that. And I understand that point. But for me, in my opinion, and this was just my opinion,
Yeah.
you shouldn't reference the other guys, especially because, well, he didn't say him by name. Yeah, he didn't say his name, but at the same time, everybody knew who he was talking about.
Yeah.
So now
Of
you run
course.
the risk of having the same thing happen, like when they showed the backstage footage from what happened at All in Wembley with CM Punk and Jack Perry. What
Yeah.
happened after they showed that? There was a loud CM Punk chant in an AEW, sorry, ECW, but AEW arena
Yeah. Yeah.
that's blasting out on their TV. So now their fans are chanting for a guy who doesn't even work for the company anymore.
Mhm.
And that's all I said. It was just, I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't think it belonged. And he put attention on someone from the other company. And of course, he came back and he in his MJF way, uh, threw some jabs my way. And I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I kind of, I didn't expect it so quickly, that's for sure, because it was the same night. But
Sure. Sure.
for me, it's no big deal. It's, he's just doing his thing. That's
Okay.
fine.
Do you think he's going to eventually head over to the WWE? I think he could become a big star in the WWE.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think I think eventually he's going to head there because he grew up watching WWE.
Yeah.
And he knows in the back of his mind, like right now, I don't blame him for being where he is right now because he's making a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that's what this business is based on, making money. But at the end of the day, if he has goals, he'll want to be in a WrestleMania and he'll want the main event of WrestleMania.
Okay.
And he has the talent to do it. He just, like I said, he needs just a little bit of reining in, and he'll be just fine.
Okay. Now you mentioned Cody Rhodes. You meant to mention WrestleMania 41 coming up. John Cena on his retirement tour, but he turned heel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I feel good with that, comfortable with that. What's your opinion on him turning heel?
I It's very interesting. It's I was there at Elimination Chamber live in the building,
Okay.
and you just the entire audience was shocked. They everybody they got
Yeah.
even everybody in media row and press row, they were stunned. And
Yeah.
anybody who says they saw that coming, you may have anticipated it, you may have hoped it would happen someday, but you didn't see it coming the way it did.
Yeah. I was watching, and when I didn't see it coming at all, but when he changed his face,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh my God, he's going to turn heel." I did not see that coming at all. But yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll let you continue.
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all.
Yeah.
That's fine. And the big thing that people don't realize is that moment. It's about moments. That moment captured on television, on Netflix here in Canada and on Peacock in the United States.
Yeah.
But that made so many headlines with ESPN, with other news outlets. Everybody picked up on this thing because John Cena is a huge name across the world. And together with The Rock, who is the biggest star in the world right now, this is what they do brilliantly, is they cater to an audience outside of wrestling. Because this whole adage of they have to bring back the casual fans. I think they're trying to bring back a more broader fan base other than the casual fans. They're getting people to notice, and sure, you'll get people to tune in and say, well, I don't know, this may not be for me. But at the same time, you're getting people to tune in and give it a shot at least to see if they like it. But as far as the heel turn itself, I thought it was done brilliantly. I thought it was masterfully shot. One thing they do well is their production team shoots everything so well. Like you mentioned, that facial change in him
Yeah.
with the shot over the shoulder, beautifully done. And I know people are going to complain and say, well, there's a merchandise opportunity here that probably will be hurt in this situation because of him turning heel. At the end of the day, it's all about the end game, and the end game is WrestleMania. And let me ask you this question. Would you be more invested in a match at WrestleMania between a babyface John Cena and a babyface Cody Rhodes?
I think I would be just as invested. because
Hmm?
because Cena's on his retirement tour. I kind of thought that he would want to go as a hero, not as a villain.
Hmm?
So if he's going to go out as a villain, that kind of doesn't make sense to me. He's been a hero much of his career. So
Hmm?
I would have watched the match with the same enthusiasm if he was a heel or babyface. But that's just me. That's just me.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But there's still time for him to go out as a hero.
Okay.
You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
So this could eventually lead down the road. Like I mentioned earlier, the two biggest stars right now outside of WWE that they have on their roster, whether it's part time or not, you can make that argument, are John Cena and The Rock.
Okay.
So if his final match is against the final boss, I don't know.
Hey,
I see
there you
something
go.
there.
There you go. Nope. I honestly did not think about that, but that's
Mm.
an excellent point. Excellent point. If they go in that direction, do you think Cena breaks Flair's record at WrestleMania and becomes a 17-time world champion?
I I think there's if I was a betting man, which I used to be, I don't anymore.
Okay.
um, I would I would lean towards yes. I
And
would lean towards yes. I know people say you want to leave WrestleMania on a happy note, which I get, but at the same time, more controversy going outside of WrestleMania. Everybody looks forward to the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. Uh, um, a 17-time world champion, John Cena, I think would draw some eyes. And again, it's all about bringing eyes to your product.
so does Ric Flair return and try to win the title for the 17th time? No, I'm kidding. I'm,
I hope not.
he's been talking about it. He's been talking about getting in shape, but I hope we
you
never see
know,
him in the ring again.
no, but I wouldn't mind seeing him at WrestleMania being involved in some form or
Yeah,
fashion.
of course,
You
of course.
know,
I agree. I
yeah.
agree. Travis Scott. I just want to get your opinion on
Oh,
Travis Scott punching Cody Rhodes in the ear. I'm not
mhm.
sure if you spoke about it on Roughing It Up, but your opinion on that. I think he should have been reprimanded if he wasn't, and he
I,
hasn't already
I,
been.
I didn't like what I saw, and the the way it panned out, it should not have happened. See, a lot of things were wrong with that. First of all, you have someone in the ring who is not trained to do what the
Yeah,
guys do.
yeah,
And it's happened before where you saw Jelly Roll do the choke slam thing. That's a different story because you're not really physically throwing a punch
yeah,
or a kick or anything like that. But the problem is when you throw a punch, whether it's a working punch, it's usually someone who is able to move their head along with the punch. You know, like let's say if he was in a seated position and he did that, Cody would be able to turn his head and
yeah,
go with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because he was down on the canvas, face down, and had nowhere to go, that punch, which shouldn't have happened in the first place, anyways. I just don't think but when I first saw it happen, I was like, I was angry. I'll be honest. I was angry with it. The reports of the injuries afterwards, it's reported that he had a busted eardrum. I don't know
Yeah.
how valid that is, and if it is true, that makes it even worse. But I didn't like it at all. I don't think it was necessary. I don't think it was needed. It took focus away from the beatdown because now people are talking about Travis Scott. As much as they're talking about John Cena in the turn, people are still talking about Travis Scott, and he should not be a focal point in this at all.
No, I agree. I think it was horrible. I know Bully Ray was really upset. I think Bully Ray said, I better not ever see Travis Scott."
Oh
And I
yeah.
think Bully Ray is gonna give him either a thrashing or a good talking to. But
Oh, I'm sure he will give him at least a good talking to.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither, man. So let's go back a little bit. I want to talk about Kurt Angle, Daniel Puder, that incident.
Mm.
You were in the ring for that. Was Angle really in serious, legitimate trouble when the key lock was on? And I know you counted to three. Were you supposed to count to three, or well, you knew he was in trouble and you had to end that segment?
Okay. I think trying to explain this thing. I wasn't very well versed in MMA type style fighting.
Okay.
So when he had the match before, or the whatever, the amateur contest, I want to say it was Chris Nowinski before that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was Chris. I think it was Nowinski.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Miz. It wasn't the Miz. I
No,
think it was
no.
Nowinski. Yeah.
I believe it was Nowinski and of course Kurt, who's an Olympic gold medalist, but he was hurting at the time. He wasn't 100%.
Okay.
But he still made short work of Chris Nowinski because they blew these guys up all day long, making him run wind sprints all day long, eating pasta, doing all these things, and just. But Puder was like in amazing shape, and then after the thing with Chris, we thought it was done. And then Kurt just looked over at everybody and said, "Anybody else want to challenge?" I didn't think he was expecting anybody to put their hand up, and Puder put his hand up. And
Okay.
what's he supposed to do now? Okay, you come in here in the ring. And I looked at Al Snow, who was standing in the ring, and he kind of shrugged his shoulders, like looked at me like Kurt's going to do what Kurt's going to do. You know what I mean? So they started off and they tussled around. They trying to get positioning and all that sort of stuff, and they backed into a corner. And I was kind of looking, and I saw that he was trying to hook some kind of arm hold on Kurt, and he hooked what is called a key lock
Yeah.
on him, and he had it cinched in to the point where Kurt was not going to get out of this thing. Like it was in. And I thought to myself, oh goodness, what are we going to do now? I have like this. This is not a situation we knew was going to happen. It wasn't pre-planned or anything like this. So the first thought that came to my head is, how do we end this? How do we get out of this and stop this from happening?
Yeah.
Because there's no way on God's green earth that Kurt Angle is going to tap to this kid.
Okay.
No way. So they fell to the canvas, and Kurt landed on top. And it wasn't like I said, okay, when I have the opportunity, I'm going to do it. I just instinctively went down and started counting.
Okay.
And, of course, afterthought, I was thinking this was an amateur contest. I could have just counted one, but I counted three. They got up, and Kurt got in his face and gave him an earful. And I looked at Al, and he just nodded. And I got to the back, and Mr. Briscoe was that gorilla, and he gave me a thumbs up. And I ran into Fit Finley in the back, and he says, "Jimmy, did they tell you to count there?" I said, "No, I just did it. Something in my head just told me do it." And I did. And he says, "Well, you probably saved Kurt's arm." And I went, "Ooh."
Yeah.
I didn't realize, like, he would know how bad it is. I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize how bad.
How much heat did Puder get in? Did he get in a lot of backstage heat for that? Or because it seemed like he went into business for himself.
Well, he did get some heat from the boys because, he was an outsider technically. So an outsider coming in and trying to overshadow one of the top talent in the company. Yeah, it didn't do him any favors. Let's put it that way, because if you remember the Royal Rumble afterwards, where he came in and everybody had a chop fest against him and just like laid it in.
Yeah.
He got a good lesson that day.
What, in your opinion, why do you think he never made it? Because I think he disappeared just as quick as he arrived on the scene. I know he won the Tough Enough challenge. I kind of felt to me that maybe the WWE wanted the Miz to win because he's became the big star. But why do you think in your opinion, if you have an opinion on why he never made it?
I just think he ruffled some feathers at the beginning and never was able to mend those fences, because Miz got in a lot of trouble.
Oh, okay.
At the beginning. Yeah, there was a lot of heat on Miz when he first started coming on the road, but he was able to turn that around and create a fantastic career for himself. Because you see him today and what he has become, because those first few weeks on the road, everybody said, "Oh, this kid ain't going to make it. There's no way he's going to last out here," especially under that locker room with some of the guys, and the way he pissed off some people. Yeah, I actually had to restrain Scott Armstrong from beating the living what out of him one day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's what got him. Okay. That's what got him his nuclear heat.
Okay, all right. So let's switch gears. Lex Luger inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame. He's going to be inducted, I should say. You feel this is way overdue?
Yes. Lex Luger, under different circumstances, could have been one of the biggest. He could have been the next Ultimate Warrior for the WWE, in my opinion. Yeah. He had the look, he had the charisma. People loved him. people gravitated towards him. Again, it's drawing your audience in and getting them invested in you, and he was able to do that hands down as good as anybody. It's just unfortunate circumstances. You know, unfortunately, I don't know if it was backstage politics. I don't know what it was. It just never took off like I think it should have.
Okay.
But he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He didn't not deserves it. He earned it, and I love the fact that Cody went to DDP's place to announce it to him, and he got up out of the chair, out of his
Yeah,
wheelchair.
that was
You
nice.
know
Yeah.
what? Again, you talk about heart wrenching moments. I mean, I saw that and I was like smiling from ear to ear.
All right. So we got like a little less than 10 minutes.
Hmm.
So I want to ask, do you have any good road stories? My personal favorite, Roddy Piper. You have any good
Oh,
road stories on Roddy Piper? Or if not, any good stories on Andre the Giant?
oh, Under the Giants. Road stories for Under Piper. I love Piper, but I never got to really travel with Roddy. Whereas
Okay.
Andre, when he would come to Toronto, Jack Tunney would always kind of give me his Fleetwood Cadillac and tell me go pick up Andre at the airport and stuff like
Okay.
that at the Marriott or whatever. And one day, uh, early on, Timmy White usually traveled with him, and on this occasion, he was not there. It was Danny Davis who traveled with him on this day because Timmy had a rare weekend off. And Jack said, go up to the airport Marriott, pick up Timmy, and Danny Davis is traveling with him this week. So I get to the airport and I call up his room, and he's not in his room. And then I called Danny Davis. I said, Danny, I just called boss's room. He's not there. He says, well, he's probably in the bar. Head down there. I'll be down in about 5 minutes. I said, okay. And I walk in and, there he is. And he said, oh, Jimmy, come here, come sit down, have a drink. And I thought, okay, I guess I could have one. It'll be fine. And of course, sitting with Andre, one turns into four.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can't say no to him. You just, yeah, you just can't. You can't refuse it from the boss. So Danny comes down about 20 minutes later, as opposed to 5, like he said, and he looks and he says, "Okay, let's go." And we're getting to go, and he looks at me, and goes, "Are you okay to drive?" And I said, "I think so, but," he says, "maybe I should drive for you." And I thought, well, if we pull up to the building and you're driving instead of me, I'm in trouble. So, Andre said, "Oh, Danny, he'll be fine." And I'm like, okay. So Danny sat shotgun in, of course, Andre in the back, and we get down to the building. And as everything was fine, I took my time, I took it easy. I don't condone doing this. Don't drink and drive, whatever you do. But,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I get to the building and I go to give Jack his keys back to his car and go, "Here you go, Jack." He goes, "Jimmy, come here." And then he looks at me, he goes, "Jimmy, you okay?" I said, "Mm-hmm." I'm not saying anything. He says, have you been drinking?" No. And I shrugged my shoulders. I didn't want to say yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He says, "Was Andre in the bar when you went to go pick him up?" And again, I learned early on, don't stooge the boys off. So
Sure.
I kind of shrugged my shoulders and went, He said, okay, I know. It's just go in my office, have a couple of coffees, you'll be fine. And at least he was cool about it, because I think he understood. But him also, really quick, another Andre one was,
Sure.
he was working with Warrior around the loop for forever. And
Oh, yeah, I remember those matches.
yeah,
Yeah.
they would do this spot where Warrior would hit the ropes and hit him with a clothesline. Andre would stagger. He'd come back, hit him with a second one. He'd stagger a little more. After the third one, Andre would fall back and tie himself in the ropes, like the
Yeah.
top and the middle
Yeah.
rope.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, Andre says to Warrior, after the match, he says, "Jim, he's basically saying, you don't have to hit me that hard. You can't hurt him anyways. But the point was, you don't have to hit me. You're running 900 miles an hour anyways.
Yeah.
Just do it, and I will sell for you." And he says, "Okay." But Warrior he was just wired that way. You know what I mean? So the next night he comes in, he hits the first one, just like he always does. He hits him so hard, sweat's flying off of Andre. And you can see the look at Andre's face go, oh. So he goes back, he hits the ropes, he comes for the second one. Andre puts his fist up. He doesn't punch him, but he just puts it right up there, and it's it's the size of a grapefruit. You know what I mean? How big his hands are.
Of course, yeah.
Bam, and Warrior runs right into it, face first. he goes down like a ton of bricks, and then Andre says, "Clothesline me again." So he comes back with another clothesline, and he's not as stiff. And
Of course, yeah.
when he gets in, he ties himself up in the ropes, and he looks at Bobby Heenan, who was managing Andre at the time. He looks at him and goes, "He's learning."
That's a great story, man. That's a great story, man. Um, I want to. I have other questions, but
Yeah,
with
go
Zoom,
for it.
we're running short on time.
Hmm.
I want to ask you. I know I think I was reading or I saw a podcast where you were grossed out by the boogeyman
Yeah, that used
because,
to drive me
yeah,
crazy.
whose idea was it for him to eat the worms? 'Cause I can never watch him. I can never watch the boogeyman because it would make me gag and make me nauseous.
Exactly. I don't know whose idea it was, but he did it. He was like he knew that it really turned people off. So because of that, he went 100% into it, and he would
And they were
purposely find
always
something.
real. They were always real worms, right? They weren't fake. They weren't gummy worms. They were real worms, right?
They were actual worms. Like if when he was done, you can actually bait your hook and go fishing with these things. That's how real they were. And Booker used to hate them too, and he was running. Oh, Booker. Sometimes I would referee matches with him and Booker, and Booker and I would both be grossed out, and it'd be like a contest who can hold it in before give it,
Yeah,
throwing up
and he
first.
would take them and put them in his opponent's mouth after he would defeat
Oh
them.
yeah,
I
no,
couldn't watch. I'm not a fan of the boogeyman.
nope.
Um, were there any gimmick matches that you didn't like to officiate? Like for example, like a Hell in a Cell or I don't know, Texas Death Match. Were there anything that you weren't?
The Actually, if now that I think of it, one that I was not fond of is the Inferno match that they had.
Okay,
I had to
okay, yeah.
officiate an Inferno match with MVP and Kane, and they have the fire around the ring. So first of all, you're not the official, you're not in the ring. You're outside the ring, so you have to distance yourself from that. Now it makes it next to impossible to try and communicate with the wrestlers, giving them times or anything like that. But at the same time, you have to be aware because every time someone took a big bump or something like that in the ring, the flame shot up.
Yeah.
So I was there was one point in the match where I almost forgot about that, and I had to duck really quick.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about Owen Hart, but I'm not going to talk about the night that it happened because it's tragic. But he was famous for his ribs. Were you ever a victim of an Owen Hart rib?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it was like a badge of honor to get ribbed by Owen. It was because his ribs weren't harmful. They were always playful, and they were funny. They were very funny. Like I know during matches sometimes um, he would untie my shoelaces, my sneakers, and I have zero clue how he did it. Never once saw it. Never was privy to how he did it, but it was just like all of a sudden during a match, he'd be down in a hold, either in the hold or applying the hold, and just go, "Jimmy, your shoelaces are untied." And I go, "What?" And I'd look down and go, "Yeah, he got me again. I can't believe it," and that sort of thing. And I do remember one time at a hotel that he, it was about 2:30 in the morning, and I got a call in my room, and it was someone claiming to be from the front desk, saying that there
Okay.
was an
All
issue with
right.
my credit card and I'd have to come down and settle this right away. And I said to the guy, like, can't we do this in the morning? I mean, it's 2:30. He said, no, this has to be settled right now because if you don't settle this, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. So, I put on a pair of shorts and a shirt and head
Yeah.
down to the front desk. And I go to the guy at the front desk. I said, I'm not sure if you're the one who called me, but apparently there's a problem with my credit card. He asked me what room I'm in. And I said, no, everything's fine. I said, pardon me? He said, well, somebody called. He said, no, it wasn't us. And just as he was saying that, I see a few more of the guys coming off the elevator and they all look, like grumpy. I'm being nice. I'm saying grumpy. And, same thing. They were going up to the front desk saying somebody was saying there's a problem with my credit card. And, and off in the corner where you really couldn't see him, Owen was sitting there just laughing. Just wanted to see, I guess, how many guys would actually come down and deal with it. Well, you got.
So did he disguise his voice? Or you weren't?
Yeah, he
Okay.
always did that,
Okay.
and he because he had a distinct voice. Owen did have a distinct voice,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he also did the best Stu Hart impersonation that I knew, anyways.
Well, it's his dad, yeah.
Yeah.
But um, so who do you think is the greatest referee of all time besides yourself? Who do you think? Earl
Tommy Young.
Hebner, Earl
Tommy Young.
Hebner, Tommy
I'd
Young.
like
Oh, Tommy Young, great
all
NWA. Yeah, yeah.
all due respect to Earl and Dave, who are my mentors, and all the other greats that I got the pleasure of learning under. Uh, in my opinion, Tommy Young was hands down the best.
Yeah, terrific, terrific referee, terrific
Mm-hmm.
referee. I used to watch Georgia Championship Wrestling. I think
Mm-hmm.
he was on Georgia. I think he was a ref in Georgia Championship Wrestling.
I think so, but I got to watch him because we used to get Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling up here on the Buffalo affiliate channels. And a lot of the times, Maple Leaf Wrestling, before they became affiliated with WWF, they were in a partnership with the Crockett's. So they got a lot of talent from the Crockett's. And a lot of times, Tommy Young would come up to Toronto and officiate. And, he, like I said, everything he did was just spot on.
You ever meet him? Did he ever give you advice on how to?
No advice, but I got to meet him. He's a really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, Tommy is a great guy. He's a great guy.
All right. As a successful referee yourself, what are some of the things that you see today in that some referees are doing that may need improvement? And I know you talk about this and roughing it up, but
Mhm.
is there one that you've seen lately that you're like, oh my God, what are they doing?
Yeah, I see a few, and my biggest issue is rule enforcement. For one, it almost seems like there is a little, excuse me, across the board. It's not just, I pick on a lot of people say I pick on AEW, but I see a lot of times there are certain things that they don't enforce. They allow, for example, the wrestlers to fight outside the ring for extended periods of time. I mean, there's a way to do it where you can fudge the numbers a little bit in your count, but at the same time, it is so simple for the wrestlers if they want to fight outside for an extended period of time for just one of them to roll in the ring and roll back out right away. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
But they don't do it. See, they're not protecting their referees in that form of. But also, I've noticed a lot that there are some referees who tend to try to get noticed. They want to make sure that they are seen on television, and that is the exact wrong approach.
Okay.
Because and people say, well, how do you know they're doing that intentionally? I know because of the way they're positioning themselves. Because you want to position yourself in a manner where, again, you look like you're doing your job, you look authoritative, you're enforcing rules, but again, not being a focal point unless a spot or a circumstance in the match dictates that you need to be, more forceful and that sort of thing.
Do you think the AWA, and
I know.
I'm thinking about the 80s, AEW. Do you think
Yes.
AEW will ever catch the WWE?
The WWE has too much of a head start, and as much money as Tony Khan has, and God bless him, and them having the TV deal they do, uh, unless things change there drastically, there is no chance. The WWE right now is, from a corporate standpoint, from a presentation standpoint, from a every standpoint right now, they just have too much going for them right now. I don't see anybody in the near future or in the distant future catching them unless something drastic happens to them.
Do you think TNA can catch AEW? Because I know TNA is red hot right now.
I think there's a distinct possibility. I
Okay.
think if TNA were to secure some kind of deal, television deal that gets them more eyes on their product in the United States, I think there's a definite possibility. And like you said, they have their momentum is trending upwards. And the unfortunate thing is AEW right now is currently not trending upwards. They are stagnant at best after a decline in their audience numbers. So, is there a chance that TNA can overtake number two? It's not going to happen tomorrow, but like I said, if they get that sweet TV deal, for them, I think there's a distinct possibility.
The WWE TNA relationship, you think that could help them catch
Oh,
AEW or yeah,
definitely. I think it's already helped because, like you said, you see the numbers trending upwards, and this is only them interacting with NXT talent,
yeah,
which don't get me wrong. I know NXT is technically developmental, but they are treating it as a third brand, which is good for them. So I think it's benefiting both, but of course benefiting TNA more because it is making more people aware of their product and making them search them out because, like I said, their TV exposure in the United States, they're on, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they're on Access, or are they on Vice?
they're on Access.
Yes, so
Yeah,
their their penetration in the United States is not as great as someone like a TBS or a TNT or even
yeah,
USA
yeah.
Network. So, like I said, if they could get on an equivalent, you know, television station, I think that would benefit them greatly.
TNA World Champion Joe Hendry has mentioned
Mhm.
that he would love to face John Cena before John Cena retires. Do you think John Cena will cross over, or does it make sense for him to cross over to TNA for that one match with Joe Hendry?
Um, I think that you talk about distinct possibilities.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a distinct possibility as
Okay,
well.
all right.
I think
I
I
agree.
think you know what, Joe Hendry planted those seeds, and if this was him just going into business for himself, good on him because it got attention. And now I'm hearing people actually want to see this. So that's what you want, and I think John Cena is at a point in his career right now where he would probably be very receptive to doing something like that.
Last question. What are your memories? And I think that's Eddie Guerrero in the background. But
Yes,
what are your memories of working with Eddie Guerrero?
I loved working with Eddie, and not just from a working standpoint, because he was also a good friend. We became good friends when he came over, and Eddie was one who was so. Um, his mind was incredible. You talk about people who don't get enough credit for their contributions and what they brought to the table. Eddie, he ticked all the boxes.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything. He was great in the ring. He was great psychology. He was great character. He was able to do anything you asked him to do. You wanted him to be a baby face, no problem. You wanted him to be a heel, he could turn on a
yeah,
dime and just get you to hate him. And that's the goal. Because heels today, some guys want to be the cool heel.
yeah.
He didn't care about that. If his goal was to be booed, he would get you to boo. And the other thing that I had a wonderful relationship with him is he was able to get stuff out of me because people say, well, you're just a referee, what do you know? But we listen, we pay attention, we learn from. I had the pleasure of learning from some great minds. So I remember one time in particular sitting in the just sitting in the locker room listening to him and going over a match with the person he was working with. I want to say it was Matt Hardy. Might have been either Matt Hardy or Kurt Angle, but they were going over the match. And I'm sitting there, and then something popped in my head because this was during the Lie, Cheat, and Steal days.
Yeah, yeah.
And something popped in my head, and he just looked over at me and said, "What?" And I said, "What do you mean, what?" He said, "What?" He says, "I know that look. What?" I said, "Nah, nothing. Just something popped in my head." He says, "Well, don't be afraid to to pitch ideas because you're here too. You know what's going on. You have a mind. If we don't like it, we won't use it. And if it's something that we like, then we'll use it. But don't ever be afraid to pitch ideas. Just be you when you pitch your ideas. In other
Yeah.
words, don't be like, hey guys, I got a great idea and stuff like that. Just.
Oh, well,
But
what was the idea? I'm waiting for the idea.
no,
What
it
was it?
was it was when they were doing the chair. He used to do the chair where he'd do the chair sound and toss it to his
Oh,
opponent
yeah,
and
yeah,
lay
yeah, yeah,
down.
yeah.
He had done it before and he wanted to do something different.
Oh, okay.
So he said, I want to do something different with the chair. I want to do something with the chair. And I just said, when he asked me, I said, well, what if you were to toss the chair to your opponent? He looks for a second, tosses it back to you. It's almost like,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, okay, now what? And then you just toss it back to him, and it's kind of like he ditches the chair, and it's like, oh, okay, I like that. We'll do that tonight. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, cool.
I
This is
remember
cool.
that spot. I remember that
Yeah,
spot. They
yeah,
used that. Yeah. So that was your idea. Okay, awesome,
yeah,
awesome. So before we wrap this up, is there anything you want to plug? I know you have the book. I know the book's been out
mhm.
for quite some time. I think it's
Yes,
available on Amazon. It's called The Three
yes.
Count.
Mhm.
But anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, like you said, the book is out on Amazon, detailing my career in my journey in professional wrestling, and also Reffing It Up podcast with my, as I call them, my good brothers in stripes, Brian Hebner and Daniel Spencer, who is the lead official in TNA right now. And I
Yeah.
have to give a shout out to RJ,
Oh yeah.
our producer, who holds that glue together, because without him, it's a runaway train.
Yeah, RJ is a
So
good friend of mine. I know
yeah,
RJ. Yeah,
he's a good
yeah,
dude, man. I love
yeah. He's a
RJ,
good dude. Good dude.
and we have fun doing that weekly, just doing our thing. And then here in Canada, we have Huge Pop Radio on TSN Radio here in Canada. It's also on iHeart, and our website is hugepopradio.com. So it's not just on radio. If you want to go listen to episodes with my good buddy Donnie De Silva, go to hugepopradio.com. We have all our episodes listed up there. You can listen. We have some great interviews. Last week we got to talk to Carmelo Hayes, which is really
Okay.
cool, who has now become a friend. Which is nice. The new generation, I get to chat with them. So, and and on, I want to say, wait a minute, Reffing It Up, Cal Hero. I got to give him a shout out, because
Okay.
great young talent. This guy's got a future ahead of him, and we got to chat with him. So, and he likes Wham. So,
Wham! Great band.
yeah, but
1980, mid 80s. Yeah.
I know, which caught me by surprise, because he's just a youngster. So that's what's going on. And of course, on all my social media platforms, my Ref and Rants, where I just make little critiques that I think, again, they're my opinion on little
Okay.
things that I think where screws need to be tightened a little bit. That's all.
All right. Well, this was an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, and hopefully we could do this again in the future. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I wish nothing but the best for you in the future, whatever your ventures are. I know you got the podcasts.
Mhm.
I haven't listened to Huge Pop. I'm sorry, but I've listened to Reffing It Up. But whatever you do, I wish nothing but the best of luck in the future, and please come back. This was I could come up with like many more questions and we could have another great conversation.
That sounds great. Anytime, just buzz me in. You got my contact now.
I got
Do
your
it. Yeah,
contact now. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I appreciate it.
We're almost friends now, Jimmy. We're almost
We
friends.
are friends.
Okay, we are friends. There we go. Me and
Yes.
Jimmy are friends. All right. So again, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.